Time to respond to another male feminist. These people are the lowest of the low. They're the type of person who would call a black man the N-word. They're the same type. They're bad people who think that they're good. Now, he's going to bash the male audience, right? He's going to demonize his fellow man. Why Megan is missing feels wrong. It doesn't feel wrong. It's just a horror story, like the rest of them. Anyway, let's get into this.
In my last video, where I covered 10 disturbing movies, one of which was Megan is Missing and which I ranked at number 10, I indicated that I had almost too much to say about that film, and that I
It was number 10 or number one? Number 10, yes, okay.
had decided to make an entirely separate video. What did I have to say about that movie that required so much space? Well, of all the disturbing movies I have ever seen, a lot of which feature many horrific, taboo eviscerating scenes, Megan is Missing left me feeling the most dirty. Even
Know why? Because the victims were female and the perpetrator was male. That's it. That's what you have to know about this male feminist. And this is a good picture for you, dude. This is what you are. What's your name? Branomander. Dang. Okay.
complicit, and I felt that movie was the most exploitative. And even
Complicit. So you watching a horror film makes you complicit, right? As a man, right?
in the comments, Megan is Missing was repeatedly identified as one that went too far. On the wider internet, some opinions about the movie highlight how offensive they felt it was. But
Oh, it's exploitative, right? So when the perpetrator is male and the victim is female, it's exploitative, but not the other way around. Right. So you know what these guys, this is a sexist. This is what this guy is. Branomander, you are a sexist.
then there was also a large group of commenters who thought that Megan is Missing wasn't scary or disturbing at all, just bad and stupid.
Yeah. Megan is missing is not that crazy. This dude is just soft as hell. Yeah, they're calling you out, dude. These guys are calling you out. The thing is, they're they're not perfectly right though. They got the framing wrong. You're not soft. You're just a man hater. You're just a sexist.
Overall, though, there seemed to be interest in a follow-up on Megan is Missing, but some strongly rejected even the idea of giving the movie any kind of spotlight. I hope you find this as puzzling as I do. Truly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about Megan is
There's nothing puzzling about this, dude. Your hatred isn't puzzling. It's just a sad fact of reality
Missing's complete failure.
that other men have to deal with. The male feminist, right?
Obviously, there is subjectivity here. Some things are more disturbing to some people than to others, but I think there's a deeper layer. A lot of what is said about Megan is
There's nothing deep about your hatred of your fellow man. Pathetic people like you are a dime a dozen.
Missing amounts to little more than that it's just gross and shocking, but there's more to it than that. Megan is Missing has a structure that amplifies its exploitative feeling, and makes its already gross subject matter even more uncomfortable.
Says you.
So, my intention today is to analyze Megan is Missing and show, beyond just being gross, why it causes people, myself included, to feel so strongly about it. And
Analyze. What do you? I'm going to translate. I'm going to take this film and bash any man who happens to watch it. There's the translation of what he actually said.
and to call it words like exploitative. And yeah, I think Megan is Missing is gross over and above the mere fact of what it portrays.
Nonsense, dude. Nonsense. The Saw movies are gratuitous violence. They are torture porn, which women flock to, by the way, everybody. Before we go any further, if you ever see this Branomander, here's some facts you should know. Women read true crime stories where women get brutalized by men. Yes, women are significantly more likely to read true crime stories than men. Multiple studies have consistently shown that women overwhelmingly choose true crime books over other violent nonfiction genres like gang violence. See, nonfiction. So, dude, they want the real thing. This is a simple movie, but women want the real thing, dude. Here's another thing. The audience of horror movies is diverse, with women constituting a significant growing portion of the viewers. So if women enjoy something, the audience is diverse. But if men enjoy something, then it's specific. What? According to recent data, women make up approximately 65% of horror film audiences. So Brandomander, most likely 2 out of 3 of the people who watched this film were women. Most likely. Okay. Here's another thing. This is about women banging gladiators, Roman gladiators. There's substantial historical evidence suggesting that wealthy Roman women did engage in sexual relationships with gladiators. They were turned on, and this is real violence. Brandomander, this is real violence. This isn't the movies. And women are into it, dude. Now we've got the groundwork that we can respond to this male feminist. This male feminist.
Yes, the subject matter is bad, really bad, but it's how the movie portrays it that makes it truly detestable, and what causes this strong reaction from the viewership.
This is all excuse making. This is all excuse making by this guy.
I want to peer behind the curtain to understand the source of the grossness that many just don't pick up on, and
He's not actually grossed out by this. This guy is actually saying this is a great vehicle to attack other men. He loves this.
others are unable to verbalize. Additionally, the director has said that the movie is a PSA, or public service announcement, about predators lurking online, but
Then he's garbage. Either he's lying, which I hope he is, or he's a trash human being. If he actually means what he says, then he is attacking his fellow man just like this male feminist. And the guy is a trash human being. But I'm allowing that he just might be lying so he can get away with making this film that he likes to make.
many people, once again including myself, found the movie to be too off-putting and predatory rather than educational.
Off-putting, I believe, but not predatory. How's it predatory? It's a work of fiction, dude.
Again, why is this? How did Megan is Missing fail so badly in its attempt to be an educational PSA? For those who don't,
Because it wasn't meant that. The guy is lying or he's wrong. This is a simple horror film that women will go to and watch and rub one out to.
know, Megan is Missing was released in 2011 and was directed by Michael Goy. It follows two 14-year-old girls, Megan and Amy, as they are manipulated and eventually captured by an online predator. I'll give more plot details later, but for now,
That plot is very sus. We all know that men are the ones who get the vast majority of rinsing online. These young girls aren't going to be attracted to some scam like that. They do the scamming.
Overall, I want to look at how Megan is Missing's construction causes a misallocation of empathy, and thus why it fails at what it sets out to do. In the course of answering this question, we will touch on
A cute teenage girl can get guys' attention at any time. So there's no way they're going to fall for a scam online when they've got it next door.
these other questions of film analysis and media literacy. How can a movie portray extreme content while remaining tasteful and not feel too exploitative? How can it separate
It doesn't have to. A lot of exploitive, let's say, a lot of tasteless films are watched by people. A lot of people will watch them anyway.
the viewer from the violence it depicts? How can a movie that victimizes its characters maintain an empathetic connection to them?
That's not necessary. It's not necessary.
It's important to investigate why the movie fails in all of these regards, so that future PSA-type films can be more effective. In all though, basically I intend to dissect why this movie feels so unbelievably wrong and tasteless over and above the obvious fact of what it depicts.
This guy is lying. He doesn't feel like this at all towards his film. He's seeing this film again as an opportunity to attack his fellow man.
Learn some lessons from it, and hopefully we can stop talking about it forever after that. So this isn't a moral
Well, how will you bash your fellow man? You'll have to find a new film, right?
analysis of Megan is Missing, or a review. If you want a review, check my last video. No, it's an analysis of the aesthetic form of the movie, and how that form turns the audience into unwilling participants. Though I will occasionally
He's got to separate these things, right? He's got to say, here's these other films that everyone loves that I can't use to bash men. So I've got to find some way to explain how this one's different. Right? Right. Let me find an example. For example, he could use the home invasion scene about Clockwork Orange. But this guy doesn't want to bash, you know, a famous film like a Kubrick film like this. You know, he's too cowardly for that. He can't use that. So he's got to use this little known film that's obscure, and people aren't going to get upset over him using it as an example, right?
occasionally reference a feeling of morality because of the PSA angle. To further elucidate my arguments, I will look at a few other films as case studies in how movies can be tasteful and direct empathy and position the audience, while recognizing those terms are subjective.
You don't need empathy for the empathy. What he means is, you know, the victims are female, therefore you should feel for them. He doesn't care if the victims are male.
The main counterexample I will be using is Funny Games from 2007. Now, if you're familiar with both of these movies, you might question why I don't use something more similar in subject matter, and I understand this concern, but my focus here is again not on the subject matter itself, it's the portrayal and structure. Funny Games here is used as a counterpoint in form.
I'm going to give you a heads up. I haven't seen Funny Games, but I have listened to his video, and I suspect Funny Games has two males that you can point at and say, there's the bad guys. Because his issue here is that there's no bad guys on screen. There's no men to demonize on screen, right?
Not in quality or due to any similarity in content.
Right.
Funny Games works so well because it directly plays with POV and audience involvement, and helps to keep the discussion above the mere fact of what these movies portray, because Funny Games doesn't feature the same kinds of violence. Basically, comparing Megan is Missing to Funny Games helps to keep the discussion more general because they aren't about the same thing, and it adds a lot of content to think about. And with that said, I am going to issue a content warning here. Megan is Missing portrays fictional sexual assaults, and I will be discussing them, though I will not go into graphic details, nor will I show any graphic clips or stills. Everything will be kept high level. I have tried my hardest to make this script respectful and measured, especially due to Megan is Missing.
Oh, so you're begging to your female betters. Dude, women find you cringe. You're a low status nobody. The average woman that you're begging to wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole.
Reputation, but if this topic is too much for you, I would encourage clicking away now. Your mental health and well-being comes first. I'll reference this again at the
Yeah, your mental health. No one has ever gone and watched horror films ever.
end of the video, but I will list some resources in the description and a pinned comment that may be helpful, because obviously these movies deal with subject
Get on with it, you man hater.
matter that is relevant to the real world and real victims. Additionally, while this video will be mostly film analysis and I'm probably worrying too much,
Relevant to the real world and victims, right? In other words, female victims, right? And again, true crime stories are read by mainly women. Women love the idea of real life women suffering. It gets them off. Dude, just know that, guys.
just to be safe, the script was reviewed by a CSA survivor who
Holy shit. This guy goes on. So the script was reviewed by a female that's been hurt, right?
asked to remain anonymous, but consented to be referenced here. Her notes were very helpful in ensuring my language stays careful and
Oh my God, what a beggar. What a beggar. So this man has gone to some woman who probably made up her story. When women tell their stories of sexual assault, I say, cool story, bro. So this guy's a male feminist, and he's gone to his feminist overlords who hate his guts. Please, I'm a really nice, good man that you should like. I want your involvement because I want to be validated by you. And hopefully you'll stick around me. Branomander, you are pathetic.
that the analysis stays focused on aesthetics. Of course, she does not claim to speak for all survivors, her perspective just informed my wording and added to the video's argument.
Well, that's rare because most women do speak for all other women. Here we go. Here's the face of evil right here, right? Feminist.
Also, I'll be drawing on Professor Carol J. Clover's book, Men, Women, and Chainsaws, Gender in the Modern Horror Film, with
There you go. Men, women, and chainsaws. So this woman, she's the type that no doubt would love these films and go and watch them and rub one out to it. And then, just like you, Branomander or Mander or whatever you want to name yourself, she's going to bash men, right? She's going to use it to say men are evil. All the time at the same time getting off on this kind of material, right?
a citation where relevant, but my framework and
These feminists are no different from any other Nazi. No different. I'm going to show you something. I want a comparison with this one. Carolyn Bryant was a woman who got this young boy, Emmett Till, murdered. She's a grown woman who saw a black boy, didn't like his face, made a false accusation, and all these guys herded to kill this boy. This is what this woman is here. She would do the exact same thing if she could. And so would you, Branomander. You'd be the equivalent of the white guys who ran to her signaling and would murder a young guy. You would do it if you could, but you just can't, right? But you're that type of person.
analysis is mostly influenced by her rather than any kind of direct application. For those familiar, there is definitely some overlap between what I say and what she says, but
Yeah. Oh, by the way, notice she's happy and old, and so was Bryant. So was Bryant here. Let's get a look at her face. This woman lived to a long, ripe old age, and she's never punished for her crimes. That's what I see when I look at this woman. An evil person who was never punished for her crimes.
But I diverge heavily as well. I say this to make sure the viewer is aware that this video is intended to be analytical rather than sensational. I will also
No, dude, it's neither of those. This is anti-male propaganda. This is a hit piece.
say that if you're interested in film theory and horror movies, Men, Women, and Chainsaws is a fantastic place to start. Here is how the video...
I would never look at propaganda that's geared to harm me. I have too much self-respect for that. You wouldn't understand that.
will be organized because I believe that will help in understanding everything. Though at the end of the day, everything I say will be quite simple. First, I'll give a very brief overview of the plots of Megan is Missing.
Let's just get to it. The plots, right?
Into the plots. As I said above, Megan is Missing follows two 14-year-old friends, Megan and Amy. They are very different. Megan is popular and likes to party and do drugs and whatnot, and Amy is unpopular and doesn't engage in the same behaviors, which earns Amy the ire of Megan's popular friends. Against those friends,
if she's not popular with women. This girl could be popular with guys, no problem.
friends' wishes, Megan takes Amy to a party where they are harassed by some belligerent, creepy guys.
There you go. Anti-male film, right? So these guys hit on these girls, and women don't like men. They don't like you, Branomander. And so it's considered creepy, right? So guys wanting to get some is bad, right? Women wanting to get some, that's good.
Then learn soon after that Megan has been preyed upon by a lot of older men in the past. Then,
Yeah, right. As if preyed upon. Were they hitting on her or did they get some? If they got some, she was willing, right? So this is all just anti-male propaganda.
Megan's friend Lexi connects Megan with someone named Josh, who is apparently a 17-year-old boy. They video chat, but Josh's camera is broken. Josh is able to win her trust despite this, and despite standing her up at a party, and eventually Megan introduces Amy to Josh, briefly. Soon after this
kind of shit never happens.
Josh convinces Megan to meet up with him. Megan goes missing while away for this meetup, and eventually some very low-quality security footage is discovered, which shows Megan being grabbed by some older-looking man. Amy talks to Josh online, asking if he's seen...
Yeah, this is a hit piece towards the male gender, right? This guy who made this film, right?
Megan, but he claims he hasn't. After more searching and getting harassed by Megan's friends, Amy confronts Josh again, and Josh begins to insult her and threaten her when he realizes that she likely suspects him. Then, some unsavory and very graphic images of Megan are released online, confirming that she was taken by an online predator. Soon after this, Amy is also taken by some man. We see in recorded footage, presumably from Josh, that Amy is being kept in a dungeon. The man assaults her and reveals that he killed Megan, forcing Amy to get inside a barrel with Megan's corpse. Then,
a lot of women, Bromander, flocked to this film and enjoyed it.
Then he buries the barrel, with Amy still alive inside, trapped with Megan's corpse, which ends the film. Funny Games follows affluent couple George and Anne, along with their...
I don't care about funny games. Let's get into your so-called analysis, right?
films.
This is where he goes after the male audience, everyone.
For the purpose of this analysis, I'm going to posit a very simple model through which we can view these movies. We can think of Megan is Missing and the others as having a victim role, a predatory role, and a spectator role. At first glance, Megan is Missing fills these roles by having Megan and Amy as the victims, Josh and the creepy dudes in the beginning as...
There you go. This is what it's about. The victims are female, the perpetrators are male. He doesn't care if there's any other switch of the genders, right? If the perpetrator was female and she was attacking these female victims, he wouldn't give a shit.
the predators, and the audience as the spectators.
You better keep that finger away from me, dude. You'd never get away with that in real life with me because there'd be consequences. I'm not responsible for someone who made this snuff film. And also, this finger belongs on the female population. They're the ones who get off on this. But trust me, guys, he's pointing at every male member of the audience. He leaves that out, but that's what's going on here.
Now, you may question how useful these distinctions are. Many movies collapse victim and predator, for instance, like a Serbian film does with Miłosz. Megan is Missing strictly upholds the victim-predator binary, but how it collapses the predator-spectator binary is exactly what I will be focusing on.
This is how he makes his excuse that this is different from all the other films like Saw, right?
Try to show that through the very construction of the movie, Megan is Missing frequently collapses the spectator-predator roles into one, which makes the movie feel less like a PS.
There you go. There you go. You see, if you watch this film, guys, you're a predator. Since the predator is male, you know he's not talking to the female audience who are getting off on this violence, right?
PSA and more like a voyeuristic, gross experience. Normally, these
It is voyeuristic. That's what horror films are, dude.
roles might be all there is, but because Megan is Missing is a found footage film, we can.
The Predator film was basically a snuff film. There was all the male characters got zapped except for one main hero. Oh yeah, one other guy who got injured. You're fine with that, aren't you? Branomander.
Question who assembled the footage. Megan is Missing explicitly tells us that the footage we see has been gathered and collected, and that we are watching a sort of documentary, so we can think about a fourth role of movie maker, or documentarian, or editor. This fourth role allows us to critique the PSA purpose without straying too far from the movie itself. Now that we have our tool of analysis briefly outlined, let's look at how the movie is constructed and what it contains. I'll basically list out the aspects I want to highlight with a bit of discussion and context, and
just keep a picture like this guy admitted what this is about. If you're a male audience member, you're the exact same as this guy, this fictional character, right?
then analyze the effect that choice of structure has on the viewer by.
You're bad because you were born male. Except him, of course. Like he's one of the good ones.
Analyzing it through the above theoretical lens. As a preview, I argue here that by the very structure of the movie, Megan is Missing makes the audience feel stained by the exploitation depicted, and doesn't do enough to separate the audience from the violence. In fact, it seems to try and push us as close as possible to it, even making the audience in.
None of these horror films are meant to separate the audience. None of them.
To the predators of the movie. And to be very, very clear, I don't intend this section to be a trash fest on Megan is Missing. While I don't like.
No, it's a trash session against your fellow man. This is what makes it so disgusting.
The movie, none of the individual things I'll.
What he's saying is, I know a lot of women love this film, so I don't want to trash the film itself. All right.
Say are necessarily bad in and of themselves. My goal is purely to explain how and why Megan is Missing's choices of structure make the audience feel gross over and above the content that it features. And
I just want to explain how guys who watch this film are bad.
All of the following should, once again, be considered holistically. 1. Megan is Missing is a found footage movie, but it is uniquely found footage in that it is partially a webcam movie as well. The main.
By the way, I hate found footage films. You know, it just takes away from the story, right? It limits the story.
Bulk of Megan is Missing is recorded either from Megan and Amy's webcams, which seem to be always recording no matter what Megan and Amy are doing, or from a handheld camera, mostly utilized by the predatory forces within the movie. Some recordings are also added in by the fourth movie maker role, like TV segments of the police investigation.
Yeah, they want to make it feel real, even though it doesn't really Succeed at that.
Most of the footage here is just teenage chit-chat, but I want to note two things. First, there are two instances of SA captured on the handheld camera, one of which
Sexual assault, I can say it because I don't monetize my channel. I don't worry about making money off mine, unlike you, trafficker in hate. You want to make money off of hating your fellow man. The point is, I have freedom you lack.
has a very, very contrived and nonsensical reason for being accessible to the movie maker. The second is that some of what we see, including the aforementioned contrived SA scene, is, in the movie's world, especially despicable and illegal content that would otherwise only be seen by predators and nobody else, save for the investigating police.
Yeah, it's a plot hole, isn't it? It's a plot hole. Well, that happens in movies all the time, right?
As the script reviewer noted, when the movie includes material which is explicitly framed for predatory consumption within the movie, this infects and contaminates the spectator role in its essence. Now,
It doesn't do any such thing. The filmmaker just made a mistake. Like when we watch other horror films, we get the God's eye view, right? It isn't found footage, but we get to see everything. This is the same thing in the end, though. We get to see what's going on. You can't have a movie if we don't get to see what's going on. But of course, this is all beside the point. Because you have to make up some bullshit. This claim that any man who watches films is somehow implicit in it. We're evil because we were born male. Right.
normally, relegating the audience to the spectator role is more than enough to prevent the exploitative feel and properly direct empathy. Our natural inclination is to not feel like we are participating in the movie's violence, though some types of movies can.
Don't use we. I don't participate in any violence just because I'm watching the film. That's your hang up, dude.
And break this, like a horror comedy making us root for a slasher, for example. Megan is Missing, when it shows us the illegal content that was explicitly produced for other online predators by Josh, immediately places the spectator role purely in the predatory category. Those elements are only made for
Says you.
exploitative use, and when the audience is shown the fictional illegal content, they no longer feel like they are just watching some movie passively. Basically, when Megan is Missing shows the audience material only made for predators, the spectator is made into a predator. And when I say the spectator is made into
Yeah. Bullshit claim. Right. It's just factually untrue. Right. So you hearing this guy, this male feminist bootlick is accusing any guy who enjoys horror films as not being a spectator. Like these women who get off on true crime and that, when they're rubbing one out over it, they're just spectators, right? But if you watch these movies with glees, you're committing a crime, right?
to a predator, this does not reflect the judgments or morality of the viewer or anything like that.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what you're saying, you lying sack.
It's about what the camera is aligned with and how the editing makes us feel. It's a structural identification which causes disgust and a feeling of grossness by collapsing the distance between the audience and the predatory villains. So not only is the illegal content that Megan is Missing shows us extremely gross and disturbing, we feel even grosser because we are suddenly structurally aligned with predators who consume such content. Secondly,
No, we're not aligned. I'm not aligned. Maybe you are. Maybe this is how you actually feel, but not me and not the guy next to me.
we can question the entire found footage aspect of the movie when the film's internal logic is broken to show us some of the most gruesome scenes. For one, as I mentioned, the webcams appear to always be recording. This gives a feeling of intrusion, like we hacked their webcams. It's as if we are voyeuristically peering into private moments between the characters that we
Well, that's what film is, dude. We are voyeurs. right? If you took away the found footage and just gave the God view, it'd be the same thing. I don't know why I'm explaining myself or how reality works to a person who isn't about reality. He's about hating his fellow man.
We really shouldn't have access to, again giving the normally empathetically aligned role of spectator a predatory vibe. And even more so, there is the issue of the final segment, comprising Amy's imprisonment, assault, and death. Already, this makes us question the movie maker role for including this in a supposed documentary, but it's worse than that. The only way in
You're even bashing the movie maker. I'm bashing him because I think he was either lying about his intent or he's a man-hater like you, right? But you can't help yourself. You're so anti-male. Everyone's a target. Everyone.
universe that the documentarians have access to the footage of Amy's last days is because Josh, inexplicably, returned the camera with all the footage of his crimes to where he abducted Amy in the first place, rather
Well, we've got to see it somehow, right?
than keeping this incriminating evidence to himself and his creepy associates. This, on the face of it, makes
His creepy associates there must be a lot of women in there, right? That's one thing you're leaving out. Like if this was a true blue case of a guy putting out a snuff film, how many of the participants watching, how many of the spectators would be female, right?
absolutely no sense, and even outside of the analytical lens, just really makes one question its inclusion. The main point, though, is that because the premise of the scene's inclusion is completely implausible, suddenly the realism that the movie uses as a shield drops away, and we are just left with horrific voyeurism. The movie
Well, no one cares about that because horrific voyeurism is what people go to horror films for.
breaks and stretches its own rules to show us the worst stuff, which makes the spectator question why they are even watching the movie, because the realism that
No, they don't do that. The spectator watches the movie because they want to. That's why.
the PSA motive requires isn't there, and what's left is just purposeless exploitation. And when a spectator is
No, it's not purposeless. It is a purpose. The filmmaker is giving people what they want to see. Any person who went to see this film wanted to see it. So it has purpose.
watching purposeless exploitation, they just feel like a predator. 2. By the very nature of the movie, nearly every time the villains and predators see the girls, the viewer sees them in the exact same fashion. When Megan and Josh are chatting, for example, we see Megan in the same way Josh does, through the webcam. When the predator is in the scene and interacts with the girls, we see the girls through predatory eyes, because the predators are using the same devices to view the girls that record the footage we are seeing. The effect of this is clear enough. It completely collapses the spectator and predator distinction.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't at all. I don't identify with the guy watching her on camera at all. Maybe you do. I don't. So I know other guys don't either.
The audience is made to feel complicit in the crimes and made to identify with the villain because they are literally seeing everything through.
No, we're not. That's just a total lie. That's propaganda. It's a lie. You're just a liar, Branomander. I can say that at this point. It's false, so you're telling a lie. I don't believe you're mistaken. I believe you're just absolutely outright lying. You're a liar.
Predatory eyes, including the horrific scenes. The movie makes the audience view the exploitation in the same way that the exploiter does. Now, a lot of objections probably just occurred to you, but hold off as I analyze the antagonist, Josh.
No, I'm not going to hold off. I do object to your hate mongering. You Nazi, I object to what you're doing. I'm not waiting for anything. You disgust me.
3. Megan is Missing's villain, only ever identified as Josh, is a mostly faceless, minimally embodied antagonist. We are shown a supposed picture of him first, where he appears like a young, attractive surfer dude.
There you go, everyone. There's no man on screen to hate and villainize. There you go. That's his issue, right?
Dude, but this is almost certainly a fake picture used to catfish the girls. We further see him.
If he wanted to catfish the girls, he wouldn't show that young guy because girls don't like guys with low status. Those 14-year-old girls, they can pick up guys like that anytime they want.
Or an accomplice in some very grainy video, but it's not enough to truly get a sense for who he is or what he looks like.
Teenage girls will often bypass boys their own age for older men who have accomplished status, of prestigious wealth and jobs. Right.
We hear his voice in some scenes as he manipulates Amy and Megan, and we see his legs and arms in some of the final bits of footage. So yes, assuming the force behind Josh is a single individual, he definitely exists and has something of a physical presence and personality, given that we see parts of his body and hear his voice, but Josh is not a robust individual presence. We hear his words, but we don't.
It doesn't need to be. If this is all about empathy for the girls, you don't need to see the bad guy, right? You're about empathy, right, Bromander? Isn't it enough that two girls are being harmed?
See him say them or know his thoughts. We see his arms and legs, but his clothing appears nondescript, and we don't get a good look at his face.
Right,
Josh
okay.
is an empty character. His villainous presence is just that, a kind of vague presence. One
Okay. So what?
might contrast this with Michael Myers. While Michael Myers is explicitly stated to be a personality-lacking vessel of pure evil who
Then you can't really contrast him, can you? Like, yeah, he has a male body, but Myers is basically inhuman. He doesn't represent masculinity at all.
literally for the most part refrains from showing his face, Michael Myers still feels like a robust individual villain because his physical embodiment is always identifiable individually. While
Robust. How is he robust? He doesn't say a word. You don't see his face. You're full of shit, dude. No, there's a man on screen that you could hate. Right. Right. Or a male figure in this case.
we sometimes get POV shots from him as he stalks his victims, we are always able to separate ourselves from what he does because Michael Myers
Dude, this is bullshit. This is no different than what the other film is doing. Giving us a view from the killer, right? But it's different because, well, this guy just says so.
is his own unique, individualized, embodied presence. We see his face.
Oh, so when this guy is scoping out his victims, it's individualized. But that other guy scoping out his victims, he's not an individual because why? Because why?
Sometimes his entire body, we know his tactics, and we know the emptiness of his mind. Despite how lacking in content Michael Myers is, there is enough there to make sure that the spectator-predator distinction doesn't disappear. Josh
No, that's just total bunk. That's total bunk.
is just some
This guy's making something up. It's lying through his teeth.
guy with no defined characteristics, and we know nothing about him, and his presence doesn't feel real outside of what he does to the girls, whereas a more traditional villain might feel like a presence in and of themselves. So Josh is
Again, why do you need a male presence, right? You're about empathy. Something bad happened to these two girls. Empathize. Because anyone watching this video, this guy Branomander isn't about empathy. He's about hatred of his fellow man.
a kind of empty presence, and this is what makes Megan is Missing feel so uniquely gross in an ocean of media in which we inhabit the villain's POV. Other works of art, particularly transgressive,
Uniquely gross? No. I've seen far worse than what you're showing me here. Far worse.
Novels like Notes from Underground or Full Brutal, for an extreme horror example, are able to feature a predatory POV without feeling overly exploitative or fostering too much identification with the villain by employing techniques like internal contradiction, madness, or adding hints of comedy. By doing so, the works of art make it clear that they aren't relishing what the protagonist does, despite the
Well, there's nothing to say it about this film either. Did you ask the filmmaker? He didn't. He denied it. He didn't say, "Hey, I really relish what I'm doing." Did you ask the male audience? No. You hate their guts, and you don't care what their opinion is when you're demonizing us, right?
protagonists relishing their crimes, because their mind or inner world is simply too wrong or different to truly inhabit. Despite knowing their thoughts, we don't share in their thoughts. And even in the case of a
So here's a movie I like, and I gotta somehow separate it from this other film that I'm using to bash my fellow man with. Okay.
straightforwardly written predatory protagonist not employing those above techniques, simply the fact that they are well defined can be enough to
Okay.
keep us out of that predatory role. Nobody. He is underdefined on screen, so in the end, the only real defined person inhabiting the predator role is the viewer. If we can't truly revile Josh,
Bullshit. Bullshit.
if our disgust has nowhere to land, we just end up reviling ourselves.
There you go, guys. If there's no man on screen to revile, then it's bad. But you're wrong, dude. I'm not responsible for anything that goes on in this fictional film. And I speak for my fellow man. So you can stick that finger up your posterior.
Now, Josh's facelessness is almost certainly designed to enhance the PSA aspect, and I will return to why the PSA
There is no PSA aspect. The filmmaker didn't make this to warn people of anything. He made this because people want to see it. Right.
aspect fails, so stay tuned. 4. One aspect that I will mention but won't spend too much time on is the general sexualizing nature of the movie. This is the part that gets talked about most online and is the most
That is hate talk right there. Sexualization, objectification, sexualization. You're either turned on by someone or you aren't. No, when women lust after guys, they don't use these terms. So this is a sexist term, Bromander, Branomander, or gas passer, or whatever your name is. This is a sexist term you're using because it's focused only on one gender. Both genders lust after one another and look at each other with lust. So once you only put it on one gender, you are a sexist bigot.
most clearly discomfort creating aspect. The leering camera angles, the overly sexualized dialogue, the actors being around 17 at time of filming, the extremely lengthy and voyeuristic shots.
So teenagers playing teenagers is bad somehow, right?
The victim blamey feeling, the intimate claustrophobic nature, etc. All of these, of course, will make Megan is Missing an extremely hard watch, and given that the movie forces the audience into this predatory villainous role.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't force us into anything. I'm just repeating, you're just a liar, Brandon.
I think it is clear to see how all of these problems are exacerbated. 5. Finally, Megan is Missing doesn't feature a lot of the effects of the violence and horror it portrays. There are scenes of Amy's parents exhibiting some grief after her disappearance. Amy and Megan's friends are definitely sad over Megan's disappearance, and
I think we've seen enough of this guy. I'm just going to repeat myself over and over again. Oh, these revenge films where a woman shoots a guy, I bet he's going to give a thumbs up. We'll get there. We'll see what he has to say.
problem. There's counterbalance to the victim's exploitation.
See, it's a counterbalance, guys.
Additionally, try to think about how a predator might view the events of the movie and what they would focus on. They likely wouldn't care about the effects of the violence, they would only care about the violence and predation and exploitation themselves, and not care at all about how it affects the victim, their family,
So basically the female audience. Okay.
and their community, save for maybe a bit of relishing their pain. By neglecting to show those things in sufficient empathetic detail, Megan is Missing ends up feeling predatory merely by construction because it focuses purely on predation itself. To make this point
Well, what can I say? The girls love true crime.
explicit, I will turn to Professor Carol J. Clover's work, specifically where she is investigating rape revenge movies, which is a genre with similar content to Megan is Missing, featuring movies like Miss 45 from 1981 and Revenge from 2017. I know that this is content specific, so just try to keep in mind that the overall focus is on
So it's all about sex and violence, right? The woman, she gets to say, I'm such a valued person. All the guys want me, and they're willing to break the law to get at me. Then I get to murder these guys. Therefore, it's good, right?
the aesthetic form, but I think these points are useful. In the following quote, she is analyzing how these movies don't feel as exploitative as one might assume.
So when women hurt men, it's not exploitative, right? Typical Nazi, right? Again, she's like Carolyn Bryant. She was never brought to justice. Okay, guys, I'm not going to go any further. In conclusion, you're a hateful, sexist, bad person, Branomander or Mander or whatever. You're just a bad person. Like most bad people, you like to think that you're good somehow, but you aren't.